But I came to Kentucky because of their entrepreneurial startup programs.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Awesoming's podcast, where we highlight people pursuing their definition of, you guessed it, awesome. So buckle up and get ready for some more success story adventures and failures from Kentucky's tech and entrepreneur community. Hey everyone, thanks for tuning into this episode of the Awesoming podcast. I am sitting down with Sue Spencer, who pitched at the August 2022 Five Across with her company Seamly Systems Inc. And we're going to dive into both her experience and about the startup that she is creating with her team and what that looks like. So Sue, thanks so much for joining me today.
It's a pleasure to be here. I'm really excited to be a part of the awesome ecosystem.
Hey, maybe we should coin that phrase, the awesome ecosystem. I'll have to give you all the royalties since you're the first one that said that. So,
hey.
So Sue, if you don't mind, can you give a little insight into who you are and some of your background? I know that you spent some time with NASA, the Air Force. Thank you for your service. I really appreciate that. And anything in that vein before we dive onto how you got to Seamly?
Okay, well, first of all, just a slight correction. I was never a service member. I was a contractor for NASA, U.S. Air Force, Corps of Engineers, and other government agencies over my career, across my career.
Hey, that's still service in my opinion.
Oh, well, thank you. But I do respect our service members quite a bit.
That's great.
I support them.
So as a contractor, how did your role there translate into what you're doing in the fashion industry?
Well, here's the thing. I was a systems analyst, which meant that, I would come into situations that had been broken for quite a while. And I would have to look at the entire system to figure out what was going on, whether it was the applications going across the network that were not performing as desired, or if the network itself was broken, if the architecture needed to be improved, if security measures needed to be taken, if the problem was throughput, like just too much data on the pipe, just things like that. So, but it was covering the entire stack, the 7-layer stack of networking from application layer down to physical layer. So my viewpoint has always been from 10,000 miles high. Or 10,000 feet, whatever, very high viewpoint to see the entire picture and then start peeling away the layers to find the problem. So with that skill set in my back pocket, after I left the contracting world to raise children with my husband, he had 2 children, I had 1, so I left to drive the minivan, which I'm very happy I did. I realized that, I'd like to stop wearing jeans and maybe wear some of the really cool clothes I used to wear when I was younger, and I couldn't find them that fit. So I started trying to sew my own clothes using sewing patterns, and sewing patterns didn't fit anymore. It's like, wait, what? What is this? What has happened here? I'd been sewing since I was 4. So I used my systems analysis skill sets to start investigating what has happened here. And it turns out the way that we make patterns is the problem. That all patterns are based on body type, like a base size body type of a Barbie or a Ken, some idealized body proportion. And then each size bigger than that is just a larger Ken or a larger Barbie. So I thought, this is not okay. This is the 20th century. Why are we doing this? This is a pre-World War II world. There's nothing sophisticated about this approach. So I started learning pattern making systems, and I studied over 150 of them because that's what I do. Just being tenacious is my superpower. Nothing clever, just sticking to it. So I figured out what worked and what didn't, and rewrote an entirely new stack of operations to create patterns, and then combined those operations into an application that I wrote in Python. And then I had no money, so I went to the open source world, and we wrote, got some people together, and we had a new application written from the previous application that's now in C++ and Qt. And now we're looking to port that off of the desktop application, and launch it into the cloud. So that's why I'm involved in the startup ecosystem in Lexington and Louisville and Cincinnati to find support for that.
That is wild. I'm so impressed to hear that we just covered decades worth of information right there. So thanks for sharing that. Also, that was extremely succinct. So you're a pro. You're a natural. That was great for me to relearn, because honestly, at our 5 Across events, I'm often running around and getting ready for the next thing. We're helping our team with the next event or activity. So I don't always retain the pitches. So yes, I'm calling myself out. So this is a great refresher for me. So thanks for sharing that. And 150 patterns.
Yeah. Or systems books.
Systems.
I've got this library that's crazy. It's huge.
That is so fascinating. Yeah. I mean, it's actually interesting to hear you mention like the World War II. So kind of like that Prussian system that we used to. Yeah. Talk a little bit more about that. I'm actually really curious, and then we'll dive into a bit more of what you do, but this is really fascinating for me.
The basic story here is really interesting. It goes back to the inventor Joe Gerber. Now, if you're familiar with G-code and 3D printing, G-code, the G stands for Gerber. Joe Gerber was an engineer who touched everything from computing to fashion, right? And this story begins when he's about 12 or 13, and he's in Vienna, and the Nazis have rolled in, and they've started to change society, right? And people of Jewish descent can no longer practice law. They can't practice medicine. So these families are desperate to keep food on the table. So they've even pulled their children out of school and sent them off to trade schools so that they can learn to do something to keep the families afloat. So Joe's like 13, and he gets sent off to a 6-week dressmaking class. And so he remembers this information. So after he escapes with his father across the Danube to Switzerland, and then comes on to America, and then, while he's in high school, he starts his inventing career, starts making these tremendous strides in engineering. So he graduates high school and goes on to do amazing things. Eventually creates an electronic cutting table where you stack like 100 layers of fabric. You vacuum pack that down with a layer of plastic sheeting over the top, and then so it becomes this hard, like a brick. And then you take a jigsaw and just cut out all the pattern pieces that you've arranged that you've told the cutting table to cut, and that's where G-code comes from. So when he coded this out, he coded up pattern making software to support the cutting table. He never questioned the methodologies that he learned in early 1930 Vienna for dressmaking. That's what he put into code, and that's what all fashion software uses today. They just cut and paste. They never questioned what this brilliant man did. And, and he is brilliant. He was brilliant. He's fantastic. If you want to know more about him, you should read the book, The Dilemma. It's about Joe Gerber. But so that's how we're in the situation we are today. And the fashion industry has been able to make that work up until now. But I think the end of the road has come from that approach where you overproduce, you make all the designs and all the sizes, and then you make creating enough of those items to supply all of your vendors in all locations. And of course, that overproduction model, you don't want to miss any sales. So you basically overproduce, and you only sell about 60% of what you make. So there's a lot of waste built into this business model of these pre-sized that doesn't really fit everybody, but it fits some. It actually fits about 20% of the population, and the rest of us suffer. And the book on that is called The End of Average by Todd Rose, which is a really good read. You can get that on Amazon as well. So we want to end this old business model that's come to the end of life, right? We want a new business model where you sell everything that you make. Fortunately, you can have online catalogs, and as soon as you get the order, somebody pays for it, then you make it. And that's the new business model. There's no waste there. And if there's better fit, if your base sizes aren't based on Barbie and Ken, then you're not going to get the 35% returns, right? So this whole business model needs to be implemented, and the fashion industry really knows that it needs it, but they just don't have the technology to do it because they don't know how to fit people with patterns. So as a systems analyst, I peeled back all the layers, like Shrek, layers.
Ogres have layers, that's layers.
Right. Yeah. And get down to the base problem. And the base problem is poor fit. So if you fix the fit, you fix the waste.
There we go. If you fix the fit, you fix the waste. Well, Sue.
Yeah, and you fix your profits too.
Well, hey, that's exactly why we're here. Yeah. We're talking about.
We go together.
Yes, they do. We're talking about your company, Seamly, and the problem they solve. And I know briefly, I remember you talked about how you have this SaaS platform, and you mentioned Python, C++. You've already hinted at that.
Yeah.
So what exactly does your company do? If you could boil it down and tell people who, have never heard you pitch, they just got schooled in the fashion history, and we learned so much. So thank you for articulating all that. It definitely helps really connect some of the dots of, hey, where we've come from to where we are now and why Seamly is going to be a fit for most people in the fashion world.
Well, Seamly's B2B SaaS design platform solves fashion's problems with fit and profitability by improving the fit and increasing profits and reducing returns and waste.
So you also mentioned something along the lines of, matching 3D products and the metaverse. How does that fit into a B2B SaaS platform?
Well, if you look online right now, you see a lot of fashion offerings that are in the 3D space, and you may be familiar with some software tools like Marvelous Designer that create 3D fashion, and these are fantastic tools. Not saying that they are, that there's anything wrong there, but they're siloed. They're not interconnected. Go into a lot of people use my patterns and import them into Marvelous Designer so that they can have something that actually fits a human being and not an idealized avatar. So this tells me that there's a need to have an interconnected end-to-end design platform where you go from your production pattern, a pattern that actually fits real people, and then instead of exporting it as a DXF file that you send to your manufacturer, of course, you retain that feature, but you can also export it as an OBJ WAV file, or as an articulated wired character to put directly into your game. There's no reason why the export couldn't include all these extra things. So once we get down to the basics and we're creating patterns that, and I'll tell you, the pattern design software right now, they create 2D images. Okay. That's the pattern. And there's really nothing behind it. What we've done is implement the design strategy that's enjoyed by the automotive industry, aerospace industry, most manufacturing industries, where the design pattern is an engineering file, right? It's formulas, it's got constraints, it's real design. So again, we've taken the fashion design industry from 100 years forward in a single step by implementing patterns as a proper engineering document from which you can export the 2D view, like you could export a 2D blueprint of your house, right? Or from that same design file, you can look at it in 3D. That's what we've implemented for fashion. And there's nothing like it out there. Right now, most of the code bases are so old that their 3D is not really connected to their 2D. When you look at a 3D model and you make some changes, you've got to go in and manually implement that back into the 2D view because they are truly not all that well connected. So we've got the connection. We have what's called a digital thread. Digital thread.
So you have no idea. I feel like I'm in an accelerated masterclass learning about the fashion and design world. So this is really exciting to hear. So where are you now with Seamly? Where are y'all? Where's your company, and where are you heading in terms of making money? And what are maybe some of these goals that you're hoping to accomplish in the next couple of months?
Our goal is to get our fashion design software off of the desktop application build, because that's very complicated and it's very difficult. And, PC sales are dropping. People are buying tablets. We want people to do all of their work on a tablet so that they don't have to have an expensive desktop boat anchor, right, to do their work. We'd like for you to... We have a friend who used to be a VP at Hugo Boss, and now he's at H&M. And he's a big surfer dude, lived in San Diego. He's German, but so he lives all over the place, and he follows the surf. And he wants to be able to do his work on a tablet. He doesn't want to be grounded, but now he's in charge of several, a team of 3D product designers, and he wants to equip all of them with tablets and say, here, go do your thing. And we want to go, because that's the future. And so we want to be where the market is. We want our total addressable market to be as large as possible. So we want to be a SaaS product. Also, it makes it easier for us to roll out new features because there's a lot. Once we get this up and running, there's so much that can be done here. It can all be so interconnected. And I'd love to talk to you about it, but I can't.
Well, we can revisit that.
I'm so excited about the future. Yes. So what we're looking for is investment to get this up and running in the cloud. And we have some interest from larger companies, but larger companies they are slower to respond. bigger ships of, big ships on the ocean, and they don't make quick turns, right? But if they see us up and running, that we are, a proper product that they can see, then they have already expressed interest.
Very cool.
And we can go in and do the specialized integration because we wrote Seamly to be interoperable, unlike anything else. Fashion typically has been so proprietary that they think, no, we have to have our own siloed proprietary solution in-house. Like even if you look at Gucci and you see their NFT, their 3D offerings right now, those things look terrible. I'm like, there's no reason for it to look that bad. Why?
Call it out.
And I'm sorry, Gucci, call me. So we want that capability for every fashion designer out there. You shouldn't be shut out of the digital market just because the tools are extraordinarily expensive or are proprietary and you don't have your own, you haven't built your own tool set. So we have the tool set for the 99%. We're democratizing the fashion design process.
That's good.
So that you can have a profit. You can say, I want to be a fashion designer, and you don't have to go bankrupt in 2 years, which most do. We want the tools to be affordable and easy to use and for you to access any market that you want.
That's great. Well, let me ask you this question. I often ask most founders, why Kentucky? But from a fashion perspective, for as little as I do know, I have often heard that, like Italy, Milan, Paris, France, New York, Atlanta, like there's these hot spots globally where fashion thrives and grows. Why start Seamly here in Kentucky? Why not go to one of these, supposed fashion capitals to build and launch this?
That's a great question. I'm from Alabama originally, from Huntsville, which is how I got, my jobs in government contracting.
Gotcha.
Because it's a government town. And the business devs there were very, very supportive, but their expertise is in government contracting. And private enterprise is not their cup of tea. So I found out about some of the programs available here in Kentucky. And I applied for the first 50K startup accelerator that's actually based out of Cape Girardeau, Missouri. But this was the first year that they were expanding into Paducah, Kentucky. And I thought, that sounds really good. It's the middle of America. And I want to reshore fashion to America. Now's the time. We can do this. Labor rates are rising around the world. Shipping costs are accelerating. We're going to have to reshore fashion. There's just the costs are becoming too great to support this overseas production. So I want to have this based in America. And if I were to go to Brooklyn, right, creative capital, right, or to Boston, like an IT capital, or Los Angeles, which is a fashion production capital. I mean, there's a lot of manufacturing going on in cut and sew operations in Los Angeles. And San Francisco is sort of a hub for fashion tech and for finance as well. And then other hubs for fashion, like hip hop fashion, are St. Louis and Atlanta. So out of all of that, and also there's a very good community around Columbus, Ohio. That's like the number 3 spot in America because I guess Abercrombie and Fitch is from there, and the Limited was from there. There's a lot going on there, and but I came to Kentucky because of their entrepreneurial startup programs that are funded by the state, that are really producing a lot of value for the state, producing jobs, producing wealth. And you seem to have it right, and you understand the pain points that entrepreneurs go through, and that your programs seem to be highly customized. Whereas other programs, accelerator programs, you really need to meet the founder mold. There's an archetype for a founder that if you don't fit that, then you're not going to succeed, which is total, I'm
tracking with you. I'm tracking with you.
We're looking for diversity here,
yeah.
Right? And diversity is where the money is. That's where the value is. And especially with a creative company, you want as many viewpoints as possible. Diversity is not skin deep. It is all the way through. So that's one of the reasons why I came to Kentucky. And you may not be used to having Kentucky talked about in this way as being a leader in diversity, but I feel that it is. My experience is that it is.
Well, great. Well, thanks for sharing.
So congratulations.
Yeah. Hey, we're stoked to be here. And again, we've been in the awesome, we've been in the awesome ecosystem as you referred to earlier, for the last 13 years. So we've seen a gamut of companies, ideas, and people, frankly, who have wanted to be an entrepreneur, wanted to have a startup, have the solution to a problem they've faced, either with where they're located or with people who are in their same age of life that, like early moms and dads, like with this problem, we had a really cool company come through Five Across a couple years ago that had a very unique product for children and for moms with young babies. I mean, I remember that was one of the more unique startups I saw when I was earlier on the team. So totally understand your comment about diversity here in Kentucky. And speaking of, I just mentioned Five Across when I was referring to that entrepreneur. What was your Five Across experience like? I know it's been a couple of weeks now, but I want to hear about it because I know that's, in my opinion, that's an event that we want to be like Shark Tank pitch competition and also a high school pep rally where you just come and you get encouraged to be an entrepreneur.
It was such a great experience. I just want you to know that was fantastic. It was fun. It was energetic and it was informative and it was helpful. I mean, it wasn't just for show. It wasn't just entrepreneurship as entertainment, which can happen, right? It's like, oh, this was fun. Yeah. And then nothing happens from it. I've already received a lot of feedback, a lot of encouragement, offers for, to people who have reached out to me and said, this looked really good, and I'd like to talk to you about it. How can I help you? And it's just amazing. So the follow-up from that experience, as a business experience, it's yielded returns.
Great.
But just meeting everyone and being there, it was an extraordinary experience, and I loved every minute of it.
That's great. What's the one, maybe the one or two key takeaways that you personally gained after pitching, whether it was judges' feedback, you ran into somebody who's like, hey, I want to invest in you or I want to help you. Would you mind sharing about that?
Just being connected to the Lexington entrepreneurial ecosystem, just being more connected and feeling comfortable in reaching out and speaking with the fantastic mentors and experts in business, experienced advisors that you've got in your community, that just the confidence to know that we're all in this together and that all, rising tide raises all boats. And it gives me hope to get up in the morning, because as an entrepreneur, it can feel very lonely sometimes. And you feel like I'm just knocking my head up against the wall. I've got to, all these things are going great, and yet, so it really lets me know that, there's more out there, that the more I put in, the more I get back. And the more other people, that the communication and channels. And I guess that's not really a precise answer, but I think that the real value is being able to talk to anyone in your community and be treated with respect and dignity, and having a proper, having someone take my company seriously, that even though it might not be their area of expertise, they'll know someone and they'll pass me along. So I really appreciate being accepted, even though I'm from on the other side of the state. It was great.
And again, that's one of the cool things that you mentioned. We're able to partner with and help encourage entrepreneurs from Louisville, from Lexington, from Western Kentucky, Eastern Kentucky, all over. And that's one of the cool things about our awesome ecosystem. And I'm definitely going to milk that phrase. So thanks for putting that in my vocabulary. Well, Sue, okay. last two questions before we wrap up our time together. This has been really enjoyable. So again, appreciate all the knowledge that you've brought into this conversation. This has been wonderful. What is a goal? And you mentioned getting your platform off a boat anchor, as you referred it to. What's a 12-month goal for Seamly?
Our 12-month goal is to stand Seamly up as a SaaS cloud product written in JavaScript, because JavaScript can do it. We don't have to have C++. So we would be in a much more agile environment. It'd be easier to make changes, to keep up with what our consumers want, especially as we expand our market, and also to create the initial 3D offering so that everybody can get in there and see what their designs look like in a full physics engine. And you can see how it operates on the moon, because you can change the gravity, you can change the air pressure, you can just whatever you want to do. So we tell people you can design spacesuits with our 3D full physics engine, future. And we've even received a letter of interest from the Mars Society of Canada. They did a global software search for tools that could meet their needs to design garments for long-term human habitation on Mars. And they said that Seamly is the only thing that can do this. So we're looking for investment to make that happen for not just fashion on the Earth, but fashion across the universe.
No, that's great.
So, and you can find out more about Seamly at seamly.net.
Awesome. Well, Sue, thanks for the time. Thanks for bringing the enthusiasm. This has been such an enjoyable conversation, and I am excited to maybe learn some fashion tips from you to help me out, and also see where Seamly grows in the next couple of months before you get off the ground up and running. So, congrats again. Excited that we got the follow-up from Five Across, and it's going to be fun watching your company grow.
Well, thank you, Garrett. It's been a pleasure.
Well, that's it, guys. Thank you so much for checking out this episode of Awesome Inc. Podcast. And another quick thank you to Lee Rosevere and a few members from our community who provide the music that you hear in this show. Lastly, give us a follow on Instagram, Facebook, all that jazz. Or even better, come on down to our space. Come be a part of our community and get plugged in, and let's start something awesome together. You guys rock. We'll see you next time.